I was very upset about the scam, but glad to have figured it out, and hopefully I can help other people by explaining how it was done.
So did you I'm guessing you just reached out to a bunch of people that were I guess in crypto that you wanted to get the word out to?
Yes, that's right. I just looked up some popular crypto blogs and crypto podcasts and reached out to people to let them know that this had happened and that I'm happy to talk about it. You see, I'm a professor by trade, so teaching and helping people is part of my DNA, you could say.
That's cool, Daniel. What do you teach?
Actually, I teach in comparative religion and humanities. So my field is, in fact, Asian religion. So I have a PhD in Buddhist studies, and I teach in humanities and comparative religion. But my field of expertise within all of that is digital humanities, meaning how are computers used to further the study of humanities. For example, it's difficult for humans to pick out certain word usage patterns over, millions of words of text. But computers are very good at looking for patterns, as you know. So we can often use. So, for example, let's say we find we find one ancient manuscript, and we don't know who wrote it, right? So you can have a computer analyze the language patterns on it, and then match it towards language that we do know. And you'll say, well, this language usage matches the language usage we've seen in so-and-so's work. So it was probably written by so-and-so. So that's the kind of thing.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
That's
so,
very interesting.
For example, sometimes they find plays from medieval England and they don't know who wrote it, and they know what Shakespeare's language is like, and they'll have a computer analyze and guess, based on the language usage, if it was written by Shakespeare or not, for example.
Right. So the computer will probably just spit out a probability, it's 80% likely that this was written by Shakespeare or something like that.
That's right. So that's kind of my field within the humanities. And that's how I got interested in computers and programming and that sort of thing.
So what would you use that technology for in the context of religious manuscripts? Are you trying to attribute it to prominent figures at the time, or what is the nature?
Exactly. Two main things we do is to try to attribute some text that we don't know who wrote it to somebody that we do know, and we have a body of work, so we have a computer analyze their body of work, and we know the word patterns. Then we have the text that we don't know who wrote it, and as you say, try to match it to the person that is most likely to have written it. Or another common usage is when we don't really have any idea who wrote it, so we don't even know who to match it to, but we just try to figure out the era that it came from. So does this language match medieval usage, or is it pre-medieval, or is it early modern? So, computers are very good at placing a piece of literature within 100 years on the timeline. So it gives us a good idea of when it was made. So those are the kinds of things we might do with it.
Right. That's super cool. I'm guessing regarding the placing it in a certain moment in time, it looks for the kind of words used, but also maybe the kind of concepts. If it uses concepts that are specific or more popular in a certain period, then you'll probably be able to put it in that.
Absolutely. As listeners might know, Google has a system where you can see the trends of word usage, right? So it'll tell you that this word was more popular in the 1970s and that. So it's a similar kind of thing that we do, but with much older stuff.
That's all very interesting. So do you use for your compute? Do you use AWS, or do you use anything central, or do you use decentralized computing, maybe
depends
you just
on how big the
servers?
Yeah, we just have servers. I mean, it depends on how big the project is, right? These are usually not very heavy load projects, so you can just do it on your desktop. And I do most of my research in the language R. That's the letter R, right? Is a statistical language that's very good for statistics. It's similar to Python in some ways. But so R is the main language that I use in my studies.
Oh, interesting. I've heard of R. I've never used R before. I have used a fair bit of Python and some other lower level languages, but never used R.
Yeah, no, R is very good for statistics. I mean, the speed with which it goes at is incredible. Python can do most of the stuff R can do, but since it's not specifically designed for statistics, it goes a little bit slower. So R is just
Mm.
incredibly fast.
Oh, that's cool. I would like to see. I've recently seen like a scale of like speed comparison of different programming languages, and you have you have C and C++ and C Sharp that are fairly quick, and then you have JavaScript that's bundled with Bun instead of Node.js, and that actually
Right.
makes it considerably faster than running on Node. And then obviously you have like at the very end you have Python, which is one of the slowest ones, but mainly because Python is an interpreted language, not a compiled language. So
Right,
it goes to
exactly.
that layer of abstraction. It's basically a wrapper for C, is what it is,
Yes, that's
essentially.
right. It's a wrapper for C. Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you get then into crypto, and how did you come across this crypto scam?
So um, I got I got into crypto because I also do some programming on the side where me and some other people do development work for commercial purposes, and we'll be hired by people on the various gig websites like Upwork and whatnot to do various projects, small projects. And some of the people that I work with are overseas, so it's often easiest just to pay them in crypto. So I use
Right.
crypto to do that. Originally how I got into crypto is just for paying the people that work for me that are overseas. And I found it very useful. I don't use crypto a lot, but I certainly use it to pay them. As you know, it works very quickly, and one doesn't have to worry about um, various issues that you have to deal with some of the other payment systems. I mean, I had used to use PayPal, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
PayPal doesn't work, and in some countries, PayPal isn't offered. So PayPal
Yeah.
isn't available in every country, for example. So crypto is just much easier to transfer money overseas like that. So that's how I got into it.
Oh yeah, that there's great value in that alone. I've had to do something similar, so I would always go and use crypto, and I would just send stable coins. I would send like USDC or USDT, and it's just so much easier not to have to worry about IBAN numbers and 2 to 3 days processing time by the banks and everything. So it's interesting to see that people also have like hardcore use cases for it, because a lot of the times it's just, I'm sure you're aware, but a lot of times just the hype that's in crypto, and people are hyped for crypto itself rather than for the use cases of crypto.
Right, yes, that's exactly right. It's very convenient for sending money to people, especially overseas. So it's a very good use case. And as you say, I also use stablecoins, mostly USDT, for the payment to the programmers. It's very
Yeah,
quick and
makes perfect
convenient.
sense.
Hmm.
Perfect
I mean,
sense.
obviously, there's fees that one has to pay to buy the crypto initially, right? So from translating US dollars into crypto, there's fees, but there's fees for PayPal, there's fees for everything. I mean, nothing's going to be for free,
Oh, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
right? But the sending fees are very reasonable for crypto, that's for sure. Once you've got the money
There's
in crypto.
100%, and even on blockchains that are not necessarily designed to be cheap and fast. Like even if you think on Bitcoin, I keep seeing every other month that this article coming out which says some like sleeper whale from 2013 moved 1,000 Bitcoin for $3, and I'm like, try to beat that, like
Right,
on
yeah.
any sort of financial system. That's insane.
No, yes, that's exactly right. And of course, the other thing that I'll point out is when I've told people about what happened, they don't know anything about crypto. They'll say, "Oh yeah, well, crypto, it's all hyped up and it's not safe." But let's be clear, right? The crypto itself is fine. It's the wallet problem that allowed the scam to happen, right? So, in other words, sometimes people think that it's the crypto itself that runs into some sort of problem. When you hear about people losing crypto or having their crypto stolen, people think that uh, there's some sort of security issue with the crypto itself, but that's fine, right? The problem,
Yeah.
in virtually every case, when somebody has a problem with crypto or they've lost it or it got stolen, it's because of the wallet got hacked. Nothing wrong with the crypto itself.
Oh yeah, the integrity of the chain is most likely is intact and remains intact across most of these scenarios.
Right.
One weakness would be that I can think of would probably be if you're trying to bridge tokens from one blockchain to another blockchain. The way this bridging protocol works is, you have let's say you have a smart contract on Ethereum, you're trying to bridge to a layer 2 solution on Ethereum. And then you've got this bridge in between them, which basically says, okay, you give me those coins that you have, and I'm going to burn them. And then I'm going to tell this other contract on this other chain that I've burned your tokens, and this contract will release an equal amount of those tokens on another chain. But apparently it used to be relatively easy to fool the contract on the other chain into thinking that you've sent money to the base contract when in fact you haven't.
Right,
So that's one
exactly.
protocol issue that can happen. But otherwise, I completely agree. I think in a large number of cases, it's either social engineering issues, and it is most likely social engineering
Right.
issues. And based on what you've described regarding the scam that you're going to be talking about, that seems to be like a weird, I guess just even a weird UI UX choice rather than an actual, security flaw or issue. But maybe you want to just run through that whole thing from the top, like run through the
Yeah,
exploit.
that's right. Yeah, let's get into it a little bit. So I'll focus mostly on the crypto details of what happened, but I'll give a little bit of a background of how I got involved in this. So besides my teaching and my development work, I also do some investing as well. And there was a company that I had invested in some years ago that's developing some AI technology. And they they were looking for some funding to move their technology forward, and an opportunity arose with a asset management company called Tesalia Asset Management. They got a call from Tesalia. So for listeners, number one thing to be concerned about is if you get a call from an investor that you haven't reached out to, because there are many people that are reaching out to investors. They are already up to their eyeballs in various proposals. It's unlikely that they're going to reach out to you without you having reached out to them, unless you're obviously a very big name. But if you're at the startup stage, it's unlikely. Now, the trick is that these investors name dropped people that we did know and said, "Oh, we met you through so and so," but they knew that so and so had recently retired and moved to Tahiti, and isn't really online anymore. So they knew we couldn't verify it, but they knew that we knew them. So that's kind of one of the initial tricks that they use to get in touch with it. To make themselves sound believable. So, we tried to contact the Tahiti person. I mean, it wasn't really Tahiti specifically, but you get the idea that they were off the grid, right? Didn't hear back, and then they got in touch with us again, and we just got excited about the opportunity. So we figured, well, if they know these people, they know these people, and I'm sure they're okay. And then, of course, we looked up the website, and the website seemed totally legitimate, and it had been around for about 8 years. So, because obviously, whenever somebody contacts you and you don't contact them, you want to make sure that it's perfectly legitimate. So we checked the website, and the website was very professionally done, had a lot of detail. It was very deep with many pages, and it also had been around. It was registered in 2000 and I believe 16, so it had been around for plenty of time. So if it was some sort of scam network, obviously maybe a month, couple months, you can scam a few people. But you can't keep doing it for 8 years and have the website up. So we felt very confident that everything was legitimate. And there were many months of discussions back and forth about the terms of this deal. So the initial terms were going to be an $8 million investment and in a convertible bond, right? So not a direct investment, but convertible bond, so which we would have to pay interest until it converts. And then they had said to keep the $1.2 million of interest in a separate fund for various tax purposes. So they were based in Europe. Let's be clear about that. They were based in Europe, And they said that for various tax reasons, they needed to keep keep the interest separate, so that we should put the interest into a crypto fund and kind of keep it there while the rest comes through. And
Right.
we didn't want.
Do you know where about in Europe?
They're registered in Luxembourg. They were
Luxembourg.
registered.
Okay, that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were registered in Luxembourg. The asset
That's an
management
offshore
company.
here,
Yes. Okay.
practically. Yeah,
Yes. Right. Right. Luxembourg kind of functions like an offshore. So
it does.
right. So that's where they were based. And after the sort of 1.2 million setting aside thing didn't quite work out, so then they said, okay, well, what we're going to do is the transfer is all going to happen in crypto, right? So that's when I really got quite involved. So the transfer is going to happen in crypto. And what we would like is to have a $400,000 proof of funds put into a crypto account that we can check that you guys have the funds there. Now, the next step that I should sort of make sure the listeners understand is that this was not completely unreasonable, because they wanted to make sure that we were liquid, right? That we had funds to operate with. Because, while we might have been worried about them being scammers, they can also worry that the company they're investing in is not completely above board, and that they don't
Right.
have any money. They don't have any money left to operate, right? So this is something that does happen, where companies pretend that they are kind of busy and operating, but actually they're completely out of funds, right? So
Right.
it always takes some time for funds to get ready and funds to transfer and stuff like that. So an investor wants to make sure that you can operate perfectly well while the investor gets the 8 million or whatever it is that they need to get for you and get it into your accounts. So they said, we want a $400,000 proof of funds. Also, to make sure that you guys know how to use crypto, because, they said, we're going to have a relationship together and we're going to be sending you funds in crypto. So I want to make sure that you guys even know how to use crypto, right? So show me that you can put 400,000 into this crypto account. Then I will verify it to know that, one, you know how to use crypto. Two, you have the 400,000 that you can operate in the meantime while we get the money ready. So this is not completely unusual, right? But then we said, we don't have, well, we didn't say we don't have, we said that we're not going to put 400,000 in because this is the company's money. And, we just don't feel comfortable with it. So we were always a little bit, something felt a little bit strange, but when we kind of thought about it, it sort of checked out. So what we did is we put 50,000 into the proof of funds fund. So we took 50,000 and put it in. So first, I put it into a Coinbase account, okay?
Right.
And then, now, so this is another interesting thing, again, for the purpose of your podcast, which is about crypto, not necessarily about scams. So I put the 50,000 into a Coinbase account. So then I gave them the address, and they check it on the Etherscan, right? So Etherscan is what you can use to see the publicly available ledger. And then they wrote back an angry email. You guys are trying to scam us. There's nothing in the crypto, in the Etherscan. And I was like, what? But I just put it in. So I sent them, a screenshot of my Coinbase account with the 50,000. And they said, no, well, that's not good enough. Why is it not showing up on the Etherscan? So I learned something that I didn't know. And that is that some of the crypto companies are custodians of your money, and others,
Oh, yeah.
you are the custodian of your own money, right? So in other words, I bought the 50,000 on Coinbase. I should say that everything was done in USDT, right? So the Tether crypto coin, which is linked to the US dollar. So it fluctuates only within a penny or so of the US dollar. So when I say 50,000, it was 50,000 US dollars, but in USDT Tether cryptocurrency, right? So they didn't see it on the Etherscan. And that's because I had only bought $50,000 worth of Coinbase's own, 100 million pot that they have of the cryptocurrency, right? So Coinbase still owned it. It wasn't actually in my possession. It was just that I owned that fraction of Coinbase's money. So it doesn't show up on the Etherscan as personally in my wallet because they are the custodian of it, right? So I didn't know about
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
then they
Yeah. Yeah.
said, all right, you've got to put it into a different account. And they said, put it into a trust wallet. So I took out a trust wallet account and I transferred the 50,000 into the trust wallet. And then they said, no, sorry, we made a mistake. Put it into Atomic Wallet. Now, this is really the point when I should have said to myself, there's no way that this is legit, because why did they care what wallet it's in?
Of course.
And people make mistakes. Obviously, I was an early investor in the company, and they were offering 8 million, and there was months of discussion. So every time I felt that this is a scam, something would happen that convinced me that it wasn't, right? And again, the main thing is just that the websites operating all of this had been around for 8 years. So I figured, if it's a scam, and they also had they also filed, with the European equivalent of the Security and Exchange Commission, right? So they filed their taxes and everything. So I just figured, this can't be a scam because they're a legit company. Little did I know that a few days after all of this, the European Commission issued a warning that their filings were not done properly, and everything kind of came apart. Yeah, so if you look at the website that talks about all of this, the crypto scam website that I set up, it shows that there's a screenshot of the European Commission's report saying to avoid these people because they didn't file properly. So, unfortunately, the timing was wrong. If I had waited another week, this report would have come out. But nevertheless,
what's the name of the company? What's it incorporated as?
Yeah, so it's Tesalia Asset Management, and the
Tesalia.
Luxembourg financial regulator, it's a CSSF, issued a warning about Tesalia, Tesalia, Tesalia Asset Management. So if you look them up, you can see that there's a warning about illicit activities issued by the CSSF. .lu. It's the Luxembourg financial regulator. So anyway, but again, we were dealing with them for several months and there was no warning issued, so we just figured it was legitimate. Anyway, so they told us to put the money into the Atomic Wallet. Okay, so I put the money, 50,000, into Atomic Wallet. And then they were able to check that on Etherscan, right? So the Atomic Wallet is a self-custodian. So you, the owner of the wallet, actually have that money in your personal wallet. So they looked it up on the Etherscan, and they confirmed that, yes, indeed, the 50,000 is there. That's good. You guys know how to do it. And then they said, we're going to start preparing the money, and we'll do the transfer soon. Pardon me. But they said, before that, we want to do a small exchange of crypto to make sure that everybody's wallet address is working. Now, this is where the real scam took place. So, when people are doing a large crypto transfer, it is not just not unusual, but a good practice to do a small transfer beforehand, because there are so many things that can go wrong with a crypto transfer, right? One being that you've typed in the wallet address incorrectly. Two being that you're using the wrong network to transfer the money, right? So there's all sorts of ways that you can muddle up a crypto transfer. And of course, that's one of the negative things about it. Now, once you get used to using crypto, these kinds of things won't happen. But for somebody who is new to it, you've got to be careful about that. So the last thing you want is to have millions of dollars of transfer go to the wrong wallet, right?
Oof,
So,
of course.
right. So it's perfectly reasonable. And I'm sure you would agree, right? Once they said, okay, we see the money, that's fine. And we're going to start initiating these transfers. But before we do that, you give us $1, we'll send it back to you. So we'll make sure that we each have each other's proper wallet addresses and that everything's working. Perfectly reasonable. But this is where the problem happened. So we did a Zoom call, and we were discussing with them, and they said, okay, now take your phone out and everything looks good. So let's just transfer. And he goes, I don't know, let's do 5 cents just back and forth to make sure that we're each having each other's correct addresses and stuff like that. So he told me to type in 5 cents that I'm going to send. So I typed in 0.05, 5 cents into my atomic wallet send system. And they said, okay, now here's the QR code for our wallet. And again, nothing unusual about this because these wallet addresses can be 24, 30 alphanumeric strings long. So you don't want to type that in by hand. That's where you can make a mistake, right? So you want some electronic way of getting the numbers. So he held up his QR code in his phone to the screen, and I took a picture of the QR code, and that automatically populated his wallet address that I was going to send it to. Perfectly reasonable. And then I sent the money. Now, the problem is this. There are a few issues with the atomic wallet system that are serious security flaws that I just didn't know about and didn't even imagine that they could be flaws like this because they are so egregious. You would imagine that, a fairly popular wallet would not have these flaws. So let me explain very carefully what happened because it's actually, kudos to them, quite brilliant. Okay. So first of all, the QR code that the recipient gives you so that you can get their wallet address to send them the money, which again is a very good practice because you do not want to type in by hand some 24 string long, character long string, right? Some companies allow the recipient to type in an amount into the QR code that also has their address, and some don't. So Coinbase does not allow it, right? So if you have a Coinbase wallet, you can't, it's not an option to enter in the amount into the send code for obvious reasons. Because if you are paying somebody else some money, and that person that you're paying is the one who determines the amount, right? That can open up a lot of possibilities for abuse. You might not notice that they've changed the amount, right? They can say, okay, you type it in, which is what they did. They said, you type in your 5 cents. So I typed in 5 cents. Then they send the QR code with a new amount encoded into it. So I didn't actually, because I use Coinbase mainly, I didn't know you could even do this. I thought the QR code is only for the address. I did not know the recipient can code in their own custom amount into that, right? So that's a dangerous feature, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It totally is. It not only that, but it's also, it comes from the idea of easier, I guess, like
yes, of course,
UI and experience. It's like, oh, if you want to, you want to request like a tenner from your friend, just send them this code. But 100% with you there, it could easily, and obviously, as you're explaining, has been exploited.
Right.
So it is a massive security flaw. I do agree.
Yes. Right. So I'm glad you agree with me on that score. And some wallets don't allow it and others do. So obviously they knew that Atomic Wallet allowed it, so they wanted to use that. But that's just the beginning. So the other thing is that when they gave me the QR code, and in that QR code there was a new amount, and that amount overrode the amount that I typed in manually. There was no notice from Atomic Wallet that the amount you just typed in, mister, has just been changed by the person you think you're sending it to. Now, it did say when on the final button, send this amount, like it confirmed the amount. But there should be a double warning, like, are you sure you want to change the amount that you just typed in? Because think about it. If the person owning the money just types in an amount and then it gets changed automatically by the recipient, it shouldn't just say, okay, ready to send your amount of this and that. It should say, warning, the amount has just been changed. Do you agree to that? Right? But there was no warning, no indication that it had been changed. So that's one serious flaw, right? I mean, like in a simple, any web-based form that you're typing in, and then you want to change something, you press cancel, and it says, are you sure you want to cancel and lose your work, right? I mean, this is very standard. So when it comes to sending money, there should be a confirmation. Warning, you have a new amount has just overwritten the amount you typed in. Do you agree? Because if the human being is typing in an amount, the app has to assume that that is the primary amount. And if it gets changed, you'd better warn the person that it's just been changed. That's number one. Number two is hard to believe. But as you can imagine, I mean, I won't show, because this is mainly a podcast, so I'm going to describe everything instead of show you, and I don't have it geared up on my phone right now. But
we can put some stuff in the post, in the editing. Like if you have any pictures you want to point me to, we can put them up just on there so people to see.
Okay, I mean, I'll describe it because it doesn't matter the exact layout, but the basic idea is very clear, right? I typed in 0.05 US dollars, right? So just imagine a screen with an entry. So I typed in 0.05 US dollars. So on my wallet screen, it says, sending 0.05 USD. And then there's an equal sign, right? And it says 0.049977 USDT, right? So again, the USDT is called Tether because it's tethered to the American dollar. But it's not, 100%. It's 99.99% the same as the US dollar. So 5 cents US is equal to 4.9977 cents USDT. Okay? So on my screen, it says 0.05 US dollars equals 0.049977 USDT. Well, when I did the QR code and I got their wallet address and it changed the amount, it only changed the USDT amount. And the US dollar amount on the screen still said equals 5 cents. So the wallet did not update the US dollar equivalent when the new USDT Tether crypto amount was entered in through the QR code. So, I mean, it should have, because when a human being is dealing with crypto, as you well know, generally your eye kind of focuses on the US dollar equivalent when you're doing various transactions because, it's fluctuating. You don't know what 3.119 Dogecoin is worth, right? You kind of look at the US dollar side of the screen to make sure that you're sending the amount you think you're sending. Because, I mean, we operate in US dollars. We don't operate in the crypto. So, I mean, your eye is going to basically check that to make sure, just before you click send, that everything looks okay. And, I mean, of course, you may look at the crypto or you may not, but 1.39 Ethereum doesn't really mean all that much to most people, right? It's the US dollar that they're really thinking in terms of. So for the screen to say 5 cents US dollars equals 49,977 Tether is ridiculous. Like once the Tether got updated, it has to automatically update the US dollar equivalent, but it didn't. So the whole time, my screen was saying this is 5 cents that you're sending. Next, and this is where the criminals were really clever. So they told me to put in the 0.05, cents, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then they knew that would be, they had a minute before they calculated it, so they would see what the value is. So they prepared the QR code with this. So it says 0.04.
Right, because they had access to your wallet address.
Right,
so they knew what you had in your account, so they knew the amount to put in the code.
Exactly. So 0.049977 Tether. The QR code entered in 00499977 Tether. So all that happened when the new amounts overwrote the amount that I had typed in was the decimal disappeared, right? So again, let me say it again so everybody listening is clear on this, right? I typed in 0.05 US dollars, right? 5 cents, 0.05. The Tether then equivalent was 0.04 4.9977, right? So basically 4.9 tether cents. So not quite 5 cents, but 4.9 cents. So again, 0.049977. The new amount was 00,49977, which the app read as 49,977 tether crypto dollars. So the other flaw is that they don't remove the two zeros before the 4999. So by removing the decimal, right, the app read it as $49,000 with two zeros before it, right? So the full amount that I sent, right? So when it said, you are now sending 00,49977, I didn't notice anything. There's no way that a human being is going to notice this. It looked exactly like the 0.049977 that it had said a minute earlier.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And leading zeros are not a thing. Like
exactly. So I
they
looked at it.
practically don't exist. That's so weird.
So it looked, so, think about this. I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to make sure that the listeners, because it's so crazy, right? So, it looked to me like the same number. That's number one. The app allows leading zeros and doesn't remove them when you process it. It still kept the leading zeros the whole time. It didn't warn me that anything had been changed, right? And it didn't even update the US dollar equivalent to say $49,990. Well, I guess it would have been 50,000 US dollars is equal to 49,000, tether. But it didn't update the US dollar equivalent. So I click send, and the money was there. And then the guy says, okay, thanks. I got your 5 cents. Yeah, okay. And he goes, oh, I just have to check something, and then I'll get back to you. And then they closed the Zoom. And I was waiting a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I contacted them. Hey, what's going on? No answer. 10 minutes. And then I was like, that's weird. What's going on? So I went to check the wallet, and all the money was gone. And I was like, what on earth just happened?
Jesus.
Because I said, I sent 5 cents. I confirmed it. I saw it said 5 cents. That's what I did. Like, what happened? And I felt that it was one of the worst moments in my life. I mean, this is dangerous, because thank God it was 50,000. What if it had been the 400,000 that they had asked for, right? I mean, what if it had been that amount? I mean, that is like dangerous. I mean, if somebody is having other problems in life and that happens to them, it can be bad. Let's just put it that way. No,
it's horrible. I do give it to them though, to be able to figure out all that kind of workflow from the perspective of socially engineering. What is the person likely going to pay attention to? What's likely to escape your eye, that probably takes some, I don't know, like scammers focus group or something to just just be. But
I have to give them credit. I have to give them credit. So, it was one of the lowest points of my life. Like, I couldn't believe what I had been so stupid, but I said, but I wasn't stupid. I'm not an idiot. I know how to use crypto. I mean, I know what I sent. And I was upset. And then the CEO of the company, he says to me, you know what, Daniel? I think that my computer was set to record this meeting. I said, what? He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I was recording something else with somebody. I think I forgot to set, the auto record off. Let me check. And it's like, yeah, I recorded it. And I was like, oh my God, you recorded it all. That's fantastic. So I spent the next 48 hours just going over the recording of the meeting. 1 time, 2 times, just nonstop trying to figure out what happened. And I'll tell you, the first 5 times I watched it over, I still couldn't figure, even watching a recording of it carefully, I still couldn't figure out what had happened because I didn't notice the decimal was missing, right? It took me, and then suddenly I was like, wait, stop that frame. And I was like, oh my God, there's no decimal there. And then I was like, oh my God, you know? But at
Wow.
that point, I didn't even know that you could code the amount into the QR code. So I noticed the decimal wasn't there. And I said, but wait, but why isn't the decimal there? I mean, I got his wallet address, I typed it in. And then I was like, wait a minute. It all happened when I got the QR code. So is it possible that a QR code can have an amount in it? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was. And I was like, well, then I figured it out. But it is a brilliant scheme. Now, so I figured that all out. And the last thing I'll say is that I was then like, but there's one missing link here. How could they have been operating for 8 years with a website, scamming people? I mean, like, if you've got a fixed website, you can find who hosts the website and find the people doing this. Like, it can't just be that they're doing it with a regular website registered with, the hosting companies. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just a regular Monday in Luxembourg.
Right. Yeah, right. I guess. No, but so what I suddenly said, wait, hang on, Daniel. Let's use the Wayback Machine and see what that website looked like 5-6 years ago. And sure enough, it was a completely different website with the same address. And then I went back 3 months, and there it is. So I realized, brilliant. They bought an existing website that has no problems with it, and they made the name of their company a name that matched the existing address of the website, right? So I forget what the website, TS Management, so Tesalia Management. So it was like TS Capital, right, was the name of the website. So they called their company Tesalia. So it looks like it's been their website all these 8 years, but it wasn't. It was around legit website for 8 years, but it wasn't theirs. They bought it from somebody else, and a couple of months earlier had put up the Tesalia website. See, so
Wow.
it's brilliant, right? I mean, they are
It's
smart.
definitely well organized. It's
Right.
well planned. It's premeditated. There's been obviously a lot of thinking involved, a lot of planning involved. Probably you might not even be their first victim. It sounds like it went well so smoothly.
Yes,
These guys were
right.
really like switched on as to what they're doing and how they're going about it.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be behind like dozens of cases of scenarios like this.
Exactly. And that's precisely why I made my little website that explains how it was done, and why I want to do podcasts like this, so that people can know that this stuff is going on. Because I'm a professor, I have a PhD, right? I'm not a stupid person. And I thought, I've heard about these internet scams, but I won't be the one who gets scammed, right? Because I'm smarter than them. Guess what? I was not smarter than them, and I fully admit it. I admit that they outsmarted me. And everybody listening, you think you're smart as well. But some of these criminals are so sophisticated that you cannot figure it out. Like, I am proud to say that no human being would have figured this out while it was going on. Between the website being legit, and I mean, that's a very clever little bait and switch, right? That they used a legit website, and then a few months earlier had changed it. And sure enough, 1 or 2 weeks after all this, it did all collapse. And, so you can get maybe a 3-month window, if you're scamming a bunch of people like this, but then it's going to not work. So, which I knew.
It's a rinse and repeat, though. It's a rinse and repeat.
Yes, exactly.
You get a new website, you get a new name, new identities.
Exactly right. So just be careful out there, everybody. There are all sorts of techniques that you just cannot think of. You think you know everything, but you don't. And also, I have to say, I blame Atomic Wallet. I mean, it's strange that Atomic Wallet has those security features, right?
Have you reached out to them at all?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I reached out to Atomic Wallet and I explained everything, and I got like just a regular form letter. We are sorry you had a bad experience with our product. It does clearly say when you download it, that the terms of service are any money that you lose is your responsibility and not ours. I mean, I'm sure they're all lawyered up.
Sure.
So I just got a form letter, and then I wrote back saying, this is not just another problem with the wallet. This is it's
not an inconvenience. Like I've lost 50K. There's likely other people that have lost more than that.
Right. Right.
Like yes, it's your terms of service, but at the same time you have a responsibility. If your users are being taken advantage of, you have a
Right.
responsibility to your users and to your own organization to make sure that doesn't happen, because people are just going to go and stop using atomic wallet.
Right. Exactly. I
It,
mean, the least, like, okay, you don't have to have a warning if the amount has been changed, although you really should, because I mean, why would that happen? Right? There's only one reason that a person with the money would type in an amount they're sending. Then after that, the person they're sending to changes the amount. You've got to think that, I mean, if you don't type in anything, that's understandable. You know, it's like some easy UI feature. I don't want to bother typing in the number. I just take the QR code and it has the wallet and the amount, and presto, it's sent. Easy. But if you type in an amount already, doesn't that suggest that you think you're going to be sending this amount? And if it gets changed, there has to be a warning that it's been changed. That's number one. But
100%.
even without that, I mean, that's like good practice, but it's not like a legal issue. But if the amount gets changed, you damn well had better also change the US dollar equivalent of what the crypto has just been changed to. It's like at one moment, like the screen should not be in a state, you know, as we call it in program, right? A state in which it says US dollar 5 cents, tether $49,000, like equals $49,000 tether. You cannot have that. It's got to automatically update the US dollar equivalent as well. I mean, that is really just terrible.
And it
So,
said 49,000, but with the leading zeros, right?
leading zeros, exactly. So you don't notice
Right.
it, right?
Right.
You
That is
just don't.
very sneaky. That's
I
so
know.
sneaky.
Right. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they all came together. You wonder, like, if this is an accident. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like so perfect. But at any rate,
I think they were fully aware of all of these like proclivities of the atomic wallet. That's exactly why they got you to use atomic wallet.
right.
And like I'm sure they've done it before. I would like to understand who these guys are and how long they've been operating for,
Yeah.
and just if anyone or if anyone has any information that they're willing to divulge, to put the word out there, just so people are aware of who the people are behind the scam. I'm guessing you're aware of well, obviously you said Tesalia Asset Management, so that's the shell company they created for it. But do you know the people behind this scam allegedly?
Well, I mean, they gave us names that are on my
Right.
website. So one of them claimed to be Rudolph Bouvier was his name. And he claims to be related to the Swiss Bouvier. There's a billionaire Swiss Bouvier family that made their money through art dealing. And he
Right.
claimed to be related to them. So that's what he claimed. Now, obviously, he wasn't. But and it's also unfortunate for the family that he's using their name to lead some sort of scam. So we did notify the Bouvier family actually about this to let them know, because they probably have a lot more legal assets at their behest than I do. So, I should also point out that, of course, we spoke to lawyers about this, and can they help us? And the lawyers said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, guys, I'd like to help you, but I just got off the phone with somebody who lost, $15 million in crypto. So your 50,000 is very low on the poll. I mean, people are losing a lot of money, again, through social engineering scams. So those of us who are
Right.
fans of crypto, there's nothing wrong with crypto. And in fact, as you well know, crypto is much safer than regular money. I mean, it is way easier to counterfeit some regular dollars than it is to muddle around with the crypto system, right? So anybody who's
Oh
worried
yeah.
that the crypto is not safe or is going to be muddled up, I mean, I guess if somebody was able to manipulate 10 million computers at once, you could muddle around with the crypto. But you can better believe that $20 bill you're holding is much more likely to be fake than some sort of crypto money. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and you've spoken like a true maximalist there, sir. I have to say, having been through the experience that you've gone through, which is obviously horrible, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but still being on the side of cryptocurrency kind of speaks to your understanding of the technology, and that's
yes,
very
no, of course,
commendable.
because again, it's all the fault of the wallet. And a lot of the news articles, pardon me, a lot of the news articles about crypto scams don't clarify that it's the wallet and it was social engineering. In other words, the person did something. I mean, this was social engineering. I did send the money. They didn't steal anything, really. I mean, they manipulated me to send them. I mean, the screen did say you are now sending $49,000. It just said it in a way that a human being wouldn't notice that it says, right? But I mean, it did
Oh yeah.
say it, and I did press it, right? So like, and many of the articles you read are not clear about this because, as you know, many of the people reporting on the crypto field, they might have just gotten the crypto beats, they're financial, and they don't actually know how it works. So they themselves get a little bit confused about what's a wallet and what's the ledger system itself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there can be
Mm-hmm.
problems with the wallet and with your access codes that have nothing to do with the integrity of the blockchain ledger, which is as ironclad as anything that humans have made is, right? Again, maybe it could be manipulated, I don't know, but it's harder to manipulate than pretty much anything that exists, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
100%.
right. So, I mean, it's important that people differentiate the wallet issue, right, which is an app on your phone that actually manipulates the crypto from the blockchain itself, right?
Yeah. Regarding the funds, have you once the funds were in their hands, have you done anything to try to track the funds and see how
Yes.
they kind of operate, and maybe find wallets that would be good to flag with exchanges or other organizations, just to have to keep an eye out if those wallets ever hit a centralized exchange, Binance and Coinbase,
Right.
they're on them, so they can flag them and stop them from withdrawing these funds.
Yes, that's exactly right. So we did. So the other strange thing about crypto is that it's both anonymous and public, right? And I'm sure you've talked about this in some of your work. That is one of the strange things about cryptocurrency. And it also confuses people who don't know anything about it, right? They hear, well, wait a minute. I've heard that it's totally anonymous, but I've also heard that you can trace every transaction. So, like, which is it? Either it's anonymous or you can see exactly what everybody spent on what. Well, it's both, right? Because as you know, it is
Yeah,
anonymous in the sense that you don't know who owns the coins, but it's completely public in the sense that you know exactly what coins were given to what wallet. It's only a cipher number. You don't know who the actual owner of it is. So we were able to
exactly.
see exactly where the money went, after us. And it was split up into different, smaller and smaller groups of crypto. And then some of it eventually ended up at a Binance exchange. So Binance does require ID from what I understand. So there must be some way of, and we spoke to Binance and they, were not willing to disclose anything to us about who's who. But in conjunction with the legal, with law enforcement of the various people involved, we're hoping that we'll be able to trace some of this. Again, it's just very low on law enforcement's radar because, there are, luckily, we brought it down to 50,000. But there's, as you say, many people being scammed in this way, and some of them do put the 400,000 or the 1.2 million or whatever it is. And obviously, law enforcement is going to be much more concerned at helping those people than us. But hopefully, we will get some assistance, and maybe we will be able to trace some actual people that had accounts at Binance or whatever, where some of the money eventually ended up. So we'll see, but we are working on that.
Yeah, I do hope. I hope that you do. And I'm hoping that the exchanges and everyone else involved, they do realize that it's not just 50,000. It's not just your 50,000. It's an exploit that it's not being priced in. It could be of any value, and you ideally wouldn't want to wait until the worst happens, right? I think I wouldn't know how many instances of this kind would be, but I wouldn't put it behind these people to also have fake IDs and fake identities that they've used in order to create those accounts.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, I do remember that at one point we saw a Patek Philippe watch on Mr. Vivier, which is priced at something like $250,000 for that model. So that
Do you think it
suggests,
was the real deal?
yes, right. So either it was just a fake watch, or he's done this a lot, right? So I
Wow.
don't know, but
Well, in either case says that he's planning to be doing that a lot, because if he's
yes,
got a fake watch, that again plays into social engineering. They want to make you believe that they have all the money and it's very
exactly.
important. And
Exactly. He might. I mean, he might have made sure that we saw the watch just to kind of show that he has the money. He didn't mention, look at the watch, but the idea being that he really wants people to think that he has the money. So either he does
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he scammed many people, or again, he's just a very, very good social engineer.
Yeah,
So
and
I
that's
just don't
happened
know.
before. There's various cases where that exact kind of MO played out. There was this, it's a fascinating documentary as well regarding the Tinder swindler on it's available on
Yes,
Netflix, or it used to
right.
be at least.
Very
Right, this
interesting.
guy that was just driving around in Rolls Royces, just taking
Mm-hmm.
private jets, just seducing these women, telling them that he's a billionaire and he's got all this money. But hey, I just need 40K from you because like all my bank accounts are frozen and like the terrorists are coming after me or whatever.
Right.
And then they'd get enamored with the guy. They think, oh, obviously I've seen his jets, I've seen his cars, I've seen his shirts and watches. He obviously has all of that money. So yes, I'll give him my life savings because to him, it doesn't mean anything. He'll just give me back, you just pay me back tomorrow or whatever. And then he'd defraud
Exactly.
all these people out of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars
Exactly.
in the total amount. And it's crazy, how appearances can really make people either fall for something or be very cautious of something.
Absolutely right. People really judge based on appearances, and of course we did background checks and it checked out. So they really had. This was a long con, as they call it, right? They had planned this for a long time. They made sure to get the website that looks like it's been around for a while. Like they knew everything that we would do to check, and they blocked all of this off. Um, the one thing, it's interesting, in retrospect, there is one thing that we didn't do. Because I mean, we called the number of Tesalia, and they would answer, yes, Tesalia Management. But this again for the listeners, if you should get into something like this, since as I said, they were registered with the Exchange Commission in Luxembourg, and they had an address and everything. What I should have done was looked at a Google map of the address. I mean, I did it later on. Looked at a Google map, and you can see the actual street right on the Google View Street View. Go to the street number that they say, and zoom in, and I could see the names of the companies in that building. Because Google Maps is so good, and their name was not on the building. So I could have realized
Right.
that, if I had gone to Luxembourg, or another thing I could have done was, called, there's a cafe in the building. And I actually thought, I mean, this is all after the fact, right? But there was a cafe in the building. I could have called the cafe and said, hello, can you tell me if this asset management group is actually in this building? And if they say, oh, no, they're not, then I would have known, okay, so they don't actually exist in the office that they say they're in. I mean, because we
Yeah.
called the number and the answer and the website, so we didn't actually, look at the actual building. But that's the one giveaway, is that there wasn't actually an asset management company in the building that they said that they were in Luxembourg. So that's in
Which is strange
retrospect the
considering
one.
how easy it is to get virtual, manage office addresses. At least in the UK,
That's
there's a
right.
whole industry where you could buy your PO box in a managed office for like £100. Was that $120 a month or
Yes.
something? You pay that fee, you get a little office, and you also get the creds. If someone goes there and checks, they can see your like plates or
Right.
whatever. So it wouldn't have
Right.
been
It
an
wouldn't have been.
exorbitant
Yeah.
amount of money for them to,
Yeah.
to pay. But what blows my mind about this is because you've said this has been going on for months and there's been discussions, and obviously, you've got website, you've got registered business, you have to register with the equivalent of the SEC in Luxembourg. You have to carry out all these Zoom meetings. So you need equipment, you maybe need office space, like so much work put into this thing just so they don't have to work legally. Like it's
Yes, I know.
dude,
I
you could
thought
have
the
started
same
a
thing.
business. Like you could have
Exactly.
actually started a legit business.
Exactly right. I mean, these are smart. I mean, to figure this scam out, these are not stupid people. And again, we did have Zoom meetings with them. It's not like they were hiding their identity or anything like that. Um, they spoke well.
Wow.
They were, exactly, these people could be engaged in legitimate business and be contributing to society instead of just stealing from people. I mean, this kind of, they're clever, you know, and it's a real shame that they devoted their lives to this scam business. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for reaching out and for telling your story. I feel it's of immense value to anyone that's in crypto, anyone that's looking to start a business in crypto, and anyone that's working with crypto. I think we all kind of assume that because the technology has been there, it's safe to put those to put your guard down. And I think when it comes to like self custodian wallets, I would just, based on your story, urge everyone to just not go for anyone that accepts amounts in QR codes. If anyone ever scans a QR code, please, please, please do double or triple check the amounts there. If anything seems fishy, copy paste the wallet address instead of scanning the QR code. And if anyone has any information about the Tesalia Asset Management, or knows of any similar stories, or people impersonating startup founders or VCs in crypto and tech, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Daniel. We can maybe help put the pieces together and find out who these people are and make sure that they don't take advantage of that exploit anymore.
Exactly. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed telling my story, and I hope it was helpful to the listeners.
Nice meeting you. Bye, Daniel.
Bye.